this video we're gonna go over how to fix Kawai piano keys when they stop playing or they play very loud. For example, like this G key here. And I will leave the number of the part and the link to the part where you can purchase that in the description to the video. Okay, so first step, let's take the shelf for the notes. To remove the top cover, I'm going to take out these 5 screws here. And then the top should come forward. Like that. So you can just lean it against the wall, which will be easier, and you don't have to disconnect the speakers. Alright, now that we secured the cover, we need to remove the keyboard cover here, and we have to unscrew these 2 screws on this side, and same with this one here to remove it. That's what I untighten. You don't have to remove the screw, just untighten it, and the gear will slide toward the middle. This way, and same thing on the other side. And then the cover, remove the cover by taking it out. The cover has these pins that slide into these little grooves. You do it under angle. So you slide in the first one, slide in the second one, and that's how you install the cover back. But to take it out, you lift it, and then you go under angle, and then it slides out. Okay, next step is to remove this electronic button cover, and this we can unscrew these bolts here. Screws 1, 2, 3, and then 2, and then the ones on the side. 1, 2 here and 2 there. So you see this. There's a small screw. Looks like that, a small one. And then there's also a big screw here. It's a long one, like that. So pull out these 2 on the sides and the top cover with buttons. Now you can remove that. Now be careful not to tear apart any of the wires. Okay, it goes to the side like that. And now the keyboard is exposed. So the next step. So before we remove the keyboard, I usually take out these 2 panels. It's just, I don't think you have to take them out, but it's easier to install the keyboard back if you don't have them, because it gives you clearance space. And these are just held by these 2 screws right here. So this one. So remove these 2 screws, and now the panel just comes off like that. So the second panel comes with the headphones jacks here, so be careful not to tear it, not to tear the wires. I unscrew it just to give it a little bit extra clearance, but you might leave this one inside. You don't have to take it out completely. Okay, in in order to remove the keyboard, we need to unscrew these 8 screws, the flat ones. There are 8 that hold the keyboard into the place. 2 there and 2 at the end. So we're just gonna take out these screws here. Okay, now that I unscrewed all these flat screws, the keyboard can finally come out. So it should be loose now. See, now we can remove the keyboard. Okay. Lifting the keyboard, make sure you hold it by the body of the keyboard and not by the last key. So if you hold it here, try to lift it here or by the key on the other side, it will snap, it will break. So make sure you don't try to lift it by this key. Next up, we have to disconnect the keyboard connection. These green wires here connect the keyboard to the motherboard. To unplug these, they should be easy on, just pull them up and they should come up pretty easy. Alright, now that the keyboard is disconnected, now we can pull it out. We're gonna flip it upside down onto the table. Just make sure you put something soft to put the keyboard on top of it. Okay, so I pulled the keyboard, I flipped it upside down, and you see these yellow boards? These are the boards that are needed to be replaced. To take out these boards, we need to unscrew every screw here, and we'll have to unplug the keyboard wires here and here. Okay, so first we unplug these wires. It should be pretty straightforward, just pull them up. But these wires here, they're actually a little bit different. Okay, so on both sides of these wires, there are little clips that we have to pull up. So see how it lifts up here, and same thing on the other side. We have to lift the pins. Okay, once those clips are lifted, now we can pull this wire out. Now it unplugs, you see? But this is very delicate wire, so you have to unplug it very, very carefully, so not to break anything. Okay, and now that these are unplugged, now we can remove each side of the keyboard. Alright, so now I have removed all of these screws that held this board together, and now I can just lift it up. There are small notches here where this is being held in place by this plastic, so you sort of need to pull it up a little bit and then it comes off. So just make sure you hold it by this, don't hold it by the wire. This is where the keyboard contacts are, and this is how it works. These rubbers are making the keyboard sound dynamic, whether you press it soft or you press it hard. There are 3 contacts, and I'll show you how they look inside. So this is how they look from underneath. There are 3 contacts and they're all different length. So the harder you press, either 1 or 2 or 3 contacts touch, and then they sound either piano or forte. However, what happens with these sometimes the contacts erase and then they stop playing, or this rubber twists inside, something like that, and then it stops playing altogether. And there is no way to fix it but to basically take everything apart, pull that piece of rubber, and then, you know, untwist it and then put it back in. Now, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, Kawai recommended just replacing these rubber contacts, and you could have bought them at any parts store, these RG3 they called, and you would just replace the section that wasn't playing. But the problem was that after, you know, a year or two of playing, they would go bad again, and you constantly needed to replace these. Every few years you basically needed to replace a section of these rubbers. So finally Kawai came up with an upgrade to these boards, and they come up with a new part that completely replaces the whole board and contacts. I think so. This is how it looks now, and it looks like that. It's slightly smaller, but it should fit. It fit most of Kawai piano, and this is a different rubber, and I think the top is a little bit harder than the bottom, so it doesn't twist as before. So we're gonna be replacing these boards, and this part number, I'll post in the description to the video what it's called. And there's only one online store that I was able to find where to buy it, and it's in Great Britain. I wasn't able to buy it anywhere in USA. Now would be a good time to clean all those unwanted hairs with your vacuum. Okay, installing the board, what we'll have to do is to align it. Each blue contact aligns with the key, and each screw hole aligns with these holes right here. This is how we align it. We start from one side and slide it into that plastic groove and go through the whole board. Actually, start in the middle is a little bit easier to push it in. Okay, now here, once it's in, we can just make sure that those keyboards are aligned here. See, each blue contact is aligned with the key, and if that's done, we just gently push it down and put the screws back in. When you put these in, you see how they are slightly raised. This is because all the keys are depressed as they lay down upside down on my table. But once we screw them in and turn it back up, then all the keys will lift and all the rubbers will stand in their place. So that's fine as long as we screw them properly and they're inserted exactly aligned with the keys. Now, connecting these wires is a little bit tricky. First, this connector is a little bit different. You have to lift the whole side up. Same with this one. But to practice getting this connector together, look at the one that we already have, how it's bent. And once we can get this kind of set up, then we can plug them in. So you just have to be very careful not to break these contacts here. So this is the tricky part, to connect these two. This one, this is a critical point here. I already inserted this wire here, and this is going to be the next one. Just make sure each wire goes into its own slot. And the point that I want to make here is that if for some reason you put everything back together and the piano doesn't play, or several keys stop playing when you put them back together, it means that one of these contacts is misaligned. It's either in out or it's not in its own proper space. So make sure if something doesn't play right after you assembled it, this is where it's at. You have to disconnect these wires and reconnect them again. First we're gonna straighten these out, and second we're gonna twist them inward. Like so. Okay, now it's in, and the last thing left to do is to even straighten this out. Actually going this way because it's gonna be pressed against the floor. I think it's probably suffice. Yeah, I think once it lays on the floor, it will be flat like that, so it will suffice. All right, and the last thing to connect are these connectors here. All right, let's slide the keyboard in. Okay, keyboard is connected. And before we connect everything together, we should test it and see if it works. Otherwise, if it doesn't, we have to pull everything back apart. So always test it before you assemble everything back. Okay, button the power on, turns on, lights up. All keys work. The G key has been fixed. All right. It works. Let's put everything back together. Okay, just make sure that nothing sticks and the last key doesn't stick to the side of this panel. Okay, that works. The next step is to attach the buttons, and remember there are 3 brackets that need to go in here, and then the bolts connected back to the side. So there are these pins that go into these grooves here. So you slide it in an angle. Slide this side first. And this side. Okay. This. Lower it down. And now we can connect the gears back. All right. So this is now back attached. Maybe you'll need to see if these these screws here are aligned. Sometimes they go forward, so you just have to pull it up, twist it, and align it on the top so you can screw them. And that's it. Now we can put the cover back on. Alright, looks like everything is back together. Everything's connected, everything's playing. There's one thing left to do, is just enjoy your new upgraded piano. And I hope you'll find this video helpful. If you have any questions, please comment below and I'll try to respond.